Recording in progress.
Você acha que colocar aqui assim, jogar pra lá não dá?
Você fica em conta dia do ano?
Você pode colocar mais próximo de você.
Você está retomando então o pessoal aqui, eu vim para o mundo, inclui a eu talvez você vai ficar bem, todos os barrais que você conhece, né? E é para receber esse trabalho nosso. relação com eles, mas quando eu trabalho, como tá tudo em casa, né? Assim, uma mais iraniana, mas eu não conheço o mundo inteiro, porque a relação do Irã, né? Imagina, no século XIX, uma época que o fanatismo era pior coisa que se hoje, né? Se hoje é Brasília, há quase 200 anos passada, né? Então, assim, então os iranianos fizeram muito para fazer. Agora, tem trabalhado muito lá para nós, isso eu estou falando eu tive uma opinião agora, né? E agora, com essa situação toda agora, e sempre a gente conhece tudo que acontece lá, não basta culpado. E preciso de um monte que agora está tudo. Agora, recentemente, já aconteceu também no Egito, família, que foram desabrigados, tomaram filhos, o que vai fazer é usar realmente as autoridades brasileiras, mundiais, para pelo menos pressionar, do governo,
Beleza,
do
perfeito.
governo e da própria
Muitíssimo
igreja.
obrigado, secretário. Pessoal, bom dia. Nós vamos dar início aqui, vamos aí ocupando os
Morning, everyone. Let's take our seats. We're gonna start shortly.
Muito bem.
Okay.
Vamos lá. Ok. Pessoal, então mais uma vez, bom dia.
Once again, good morning. It's a great joy being here
Que é o nosso quarto dia
in our fourth day of event, right? We started our activities in Interreligious Forum of the 20 here in the city of Manaus last Monday. We had several people attending from many parts of Brazil and the world to talk about this topic that we've been having in the cycle of meetings or workshops, which is environment, sustainable development, and this is held by the IF20, the Brazilian Center for Studies in the Federal University of Uberlândia, with the support and initiative of the URI, Amazonizar, Amazonas Federal University, and Para Federal University. It's a great pleasure for us to be here in the heart of the Amazon to talk about these very important topics and talk about what's the role that religious communities have when the topic is sustainable development, protection of environment, and also how can the countries take a look at this topic from the perspectives that the religious community bring. We know that they have ancestor wisdom, knowledge from millennia about how to live in this planet, on this planet, and certainly we have many rich things that can be brought from traditional communities and from the different perspectives that are brought to these debates. This morning, we're going to have a panel that is co-organized with URI. I thank Salete, Elianildo. Let's give them a round of applause, please. These organizers who represent URI, Reverendo Yuri, I know it was important for this organization because he's also co-organizer. Let's give him a round of applause as well. This topic, which is co-organized by IF20, Amazonizar, and URI, we have as a topic environment and climate change, contributions of religious traditions. And they contribute in several ways for the preservation of nature and for the fight against climate change. URI and Amazonizar network engage directly in Brazil in enhancing the impact of religious tradition. And this workshop will be focused on current and potential areas of engagement and impact. So we're here in a new venue. Until yesterday, we were in a quality hotel where we were having our activities, and now we're in the Casarão da Inovação, Casina. We thank the City Hall who gave the venue for us to hold this event and all the team from the Casarão. Outside, when we take a look, we don't imagine that it's such a fancy building. It's a really beautiful building, but totally different inside. It's a really interesting surprise. So we thank all of you who are here with us for being here. And now I give the floor to the person who's going to conduct this workshop, who is Salete Aquino. Thank you, Rodrigo. Good morning, everyone. I am really happy to be here in this wonderful city that is in the heart, in the lung of the world. And we are rejoicing with the presence of all of you here. Beforehand, I thank all of you who are here to attend and to speak. And especially in this opening time, we want to salute the group that comes to perform an indigenous dance for us. Their group is Mulher Estrela Cadente. I wouldn't know how to say that in their language, so I invite you to come over here and tell us how do we say the title of the group in your language? Please come on over. Oh, we have a representative first. Okay, where's the mic for her?
Mulher Estrela Cadente.
We're good to be here, Mulher Estrela Cadente. Could you please repeat your indigenous language?
Significa no contucano, com português, Mulher Estrela Cadente.
The translation of the name of our group is Mulher Estrela Cadente, translated from our language.
Muito, muito agradecida. Confesso que eu estou aqui contendo as minhas lágrimas.
Thank you. I must confess that I'm holding my tears. This was so deep, so beautiful, so rich, but I'll try to put myself together so we can start our debate. Well, we had an agreement about some things for our panel. Today we're going to have a different format. So we are going to start with a presentation. I'm not going to present all of you, I'm just going to mention your names, but each one of you will say the 5 most important things of your life, but then something about your studies. But that's a true challenge. So I'm Salete Aquino. I was born in Salvador, but I lived for a long time in Brasilia, in the city of Campinas, in the state of São Paulo. I lived again in Brasilia. I worked for 25 years as a professor in Unicamp University in the language department, and I'm member of URI, the Initiative of the United Religions, for 24 years, and for 8 years I've been serving in a global account, the global board. You will know more about Uri. I have two kids, and I'm the granddaughter of one boy. This is my presentation. I'd like to say some things about our event. And for the first time, Brazil is receiving the G20 event. This is the 19th event. And the topic for this year is building a fair world in a sustainable planet. As all of you know, the G20 is a group with state leaders and the chiefs for the central banks and the African Union and the European Union. The G20 leaders will be together in January in November this year, and about 150 parallel and preparatory events will be held until then. This time, we are going to have opportunity to see the strength that the civil society has been showing, especially women and youth. About the IF20, we have been gathering several players inspired by the agendas of G20 since 2014, when they organized meetings in different places in the world by talking about studies and analysis, and the forum tries to contribute to the process of G20, bringing the voice of several religious groups and other groups with global presence. To mention some of the events that were held recently, in December last year in Rio de Janeiro, we had a gathering. There was another one in Geneva. In Ethiopia, there was another one last week in Belém, and this great event that we have now here in the city of Manaus. The IF group will be held in August, and the topics we leave no one behind. Let's think about the well-being of the earth and its inhabitants. We have here now our panel with the topic environment and climate change, the contributions of religious traditions. We plan to have a dynamic that will make possible for us to hear from our panelists and envision the suggestions and proposals that we can later send to the International Committee of IF20. You have 10 minutes each to say. We're going to try to record, so please introduce yourselves, give the 5 most important information, and then you make your contribution. Only after this step, we'll try to open for the contribution of other people who's attending here. We're going to have 2 moments for this conversation. We're going to have this first one. We're going to have a coffee break. Then we will go on with it. I thank in advance the international committee that is the organizer of the event and the Amazonizar network for being with us in the organization of the event, the speakers and everybody who's here. Our special guests along this morning will be Dom Joaquim Hudson. He is our Archbishop Bishop Renato Souza from the Fraternity Friends of the Gospel, Father Alberto Jorge, who just arrived from the Toibadé Social Cultural Development Association, Mother Maria Jacaúna from Candomblé, Clarice Tucano, coordinator of the Association of Indigenous Women of Alto Rio Negro, Isabel de Sana, Indigenous PhD student in Social Anthropology in the National Museum of Rio de Janeiro, the priest Leandro Fortes, Metropolitan Community Church, Father Dr. Ricardo Castro, Catholic College of Manaus, Eli Santos, Brazilian Articulation for the Economy of Francisco and Clara, Leandro Fortes, Metropolitan Community of Church, Marcelo Alves of the Caminho da Graça, and Mário Costa from the Baha Faith. Last but not least at all, of course not, really important, we're going to have Yuri Lima from the Amazonizar Network and Elianido Nascimento from the URI. Welcome, and just like we mentioned, it's going to be really difficult. We're going to give the floor first to Isabel de Sana. She just made a presentation here for us, and each one of you will talk, and then we'll have Dom Joaquim Russo.
Bom dia. Bom dia para quem
Good morning
de falar português,
for those who
Purangara, para
speak
quem fala língua Ingatu,
English,
Atapecerico,
Orangara
para quem fala
for
língua
who
Tucano.
speaks Ingatu, and other languages.
Então, meu nome, que recebi esse
My
batismo
name
da
that
Igreja
I was
Católica, foi
born
dado Maria
with
Isabel
and from
Oliveira
the
da Silva,
Catholic Church,
e
Maria
meu nome
Isabel Oliveira da Silva
paterno
was
de até
my
meu nascimento é o Icipó, que
name,
significa pássaro
and the
azul
name I
na
got
língua
when I
Ingatu
was born
Saí.
is
E na
Pássaro Azul, was
descendência final, nós
bluebird,
somos de Senhaçu.
and
Sou
it's
da terra
Sinhaçu.
indígena Alto
I'm
Rio
from the
Negro, do município de
indigenous
São
river
Gabriel
of
da
Alto Rio
Cachoeira.
Negro, of São Gabriel da
Represento
Cachoeira.
neste fórum como
I
antropóloga
represent in this forum
pesquisadora,
as a
doutoranda do Museu
study
Nacional e
of
PNAD
social
em Relatórios de
anthropology of
Antropologia
the
da Arte
National
Textual e Memória.
Museum of Rio de
Tenho
Janeiro.
formação na área de licenciatura
I
em
have a
informática e
major
pedagogia,
in
com
IT and
especialização em educação
pedagogy,
inclusiva e pós-graduação
specialization
em
in
antropologia
inclusive
social.
education, and
Tenho atuado em
postgraduate
vários
studies
campos
in
dessas
social
demandas
anthropology.
sociais que nos
I've been
impulsionam
working with
a
these
tomar uma
social demands
posição
that
de
foster us
salvaguardar o meio
to have a
ambiente
position
como
of
parte do
protecting the
patrimônio cultural.
environment as part of
Como
the cultural
pesquisadora indígena,
asset.
assim como
I
outros
am an
colegas
indigenous researcher,
pesquisadores e
just like other
pesquisadoras,
colleagues who
tenho
are
sido
also
usado de maneira
researchers.
ativa
We
por
have
nossos
been
parentes e
active with our
parentes, afins
relatives,
e não afins,
the
sejam eles,
non-relatives as
e
well.
eles de grupos formais e informais,
They are
para
from formal
ajudar
and
a
informal
entender
groups
como
to
nosso meio
help
ambiente e
understand how
grandes
our
cidades que
environment
afetam
in
as
great
aldeias
cities
está
that
acabando
affect
gradativamente
the
junto com a sua
villages is
biodiversidade. Em
ending
meio
the
à chamada crise
biodiversity.
ambiental, a
We have
antropologia
what's
sempre está
so-called an
agindo
environmental crisis,
com
and the
discurso
anthropologist
importante.
always
A
in a very
ciência
important speech.
antropológica
The
relativiza
anthropological
a
science
elaboração e execução de ações
talks about the
políticas, ecológicas
execution
e
of
críticas
political
após movimentos
ecological actions
ambientalistas,
before the
absorvendo
current environmental
conhecimento
movements, with
acerca
their
das mais
vast
variadas
knowledge
culturas e
about
sociedades.
the many different
Ela está
cultures and
sendo a essência
societies.
das questões
It's been the
políticas,
essence
econômicas e
of the
ideológicas,
political,
já que
economical, and
compreende os
ideological
impactos
issues, since
ambientais,
it
os
comprehends
mundos e os jogos de interesse,
the impacts that
e os
come from
distintos
a
modos de
game of
vida que fazem
interests and the
parte do
different
coletivo de
ways of
formação
life that are
humana,
part of the
incluindo
collective
sua
of
maneira
human beings,
significativa no meio
including
natural.
significantly the
Diante da
natural
necessidade de mudança de
environment.
comportamento social
As
para
we see a
efetividade
need
do
of change
conceito de
of the social
desenvolvimento
behavior
sustentável,
for
é
the
preciso, como
development,
diz
the
Moni,
sustainable
educar para a
development,
compreensão humana.
it's necessary to educate for the
Teoricamente, é
human
evidente
comprehension.
implantar
In
novas
theory, it's
políticas
evident that
ambientais que
we're
alcancem o
supposed to
desenvolvimento
implement
necessário
new
para amenizar a chamada crise
politics so
ambiental,
that we
cuja
can
maior
minimize the
preocupação
environmental
é não
crisis,
colocar
where
em
the
risco
greatest
mais do que
preoccupation is
responda a
not to
população mundial.
jeopardize the world
Ao nos
population.
depararmos com os grandes
When we
desafios que
face the great
encontramos em uma
challenges
sociedade
that we
contemporânea,
see in a
percebemos o
contemporary
grandioso
society,
impacto
we
provocado pela
realize the
questão
big
ambiental,
impact that is caused by
conhecer
the
e
environmental
entender os
issue,
aspectos
to get to know and
antropológicos da
understand the
construção de boas
anthropological
políticas
aspects
ambientais,
for the construction
levando em
of good
consideração a
environmental
atuação da antropologia com o
policies,
meio ambiente,
considering anthropology with
torna-se
the environment.
desafiador e
It's
muito importante
challenging
o
and very
redirecionamento de
important
novas ações
to
e
redirect
ecológicas,
new
numa perspectiva
actions
de
about the
diminuição da
environment in a
infinita
perspective
corrida
of
pela guerra
decrease
de
the
poder
infinite
e
race
interesses
by power
econômicos.
and economical
As
interest.
políticas ambientais são
The
essenciais
environmental politics
pelo
are
menos amenizar os
policies
desastres
are
ao meio ambiente.
important to at least minimize the
Elas,
disasters in the
dentro
environment.
delas, são tratadas
Among them,
inúmeras questões
we have
importantes, como
several
a
important
saúde,
issues like
saúde
health,
pública,
public
educação, o
health,
saneamento, a
education,
manutenção
sanitation, the maintenance of the biodiversity, among others, continuing the principles of well-being. It's highly important to foster these policies and direct people to take care of the environment with positive and sustainable actions so that all of them get to know and understand the importance to keep the balance in society. Daily, nature is in constant transformation because of the natural processes and the intentions and also the intense actions of the men. These actions deserve highlight because of the how intense the impacts are in the environment. According to the federal constitution, all have the right to a health and balanced environment, and the public power and the collectives have the stewardship to preserve it for future generations. As an associate, a craftswoman, anthropologist, and researcher, I support and I strengthen the initiatives that we Indigenous women are having, developing, and the small initiatives that we have to value traditional medicine. And during the pandemic, it was really important, even in small yards. Unfortunately, we who live in urban context, we have a limited territory, but we don't get discouraged. We ask for support of governments and countries with our plants and our animals and the different. We ask a help to save our rivers that are being invaded by entrepreneurships because we don't have drinking water. To keep the areas and national parks with the effective financial support, we want that our voices reach them so that the original people can have well-being. Religious is everywhere. Without the environment, we don't have religion, or we can leave our ancestrality, our spirituality, which is highly important for us, we indigenous people and original people from the Amazon. I finish with the lyric of the song. If humanity won't take care of the environment, we will see claims and so that the world doesn't end. Earth, the big place where we can take care as long as there is tomorrow. Earth, our great place, our mother, our home. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. We're going straight to the Hudson. Good morning, everyone. I salute the present people in Luis Castro. Raise your hand. He's so involved with environmental issues in Amazon, and he has been fighting a lot for the rights of children and teenagers, especially against sexual assault in the state. I'm a son of Parintins. I just heard the lyric of a song that is really familiar to me that was just mentioned. I'm not going to a cultural war here, but I am a son of Parintins. It's close to it's the south part of Amazonas, and I recognize that when we don't lose our origins and we defend the where we came from, we can find ourselves better as people. I am the director of the Catholic University of Amazonas, which is a college that exists for 50 years, helped for many generations of people in Amazonia. I'm a bishop in Archdiocese in Manaus, and currently I am the reference bishop for the religious talk in the North region. I am also a researcher in the area of studies about violence against vulnerable groups. I have a doctorate in sciences by University of São Paulo. I'm a psychologist. I have PhD in psychology by Porto University. So I'm a researcher in a university of the state of Amazonas. In there, where main topics are the impacts of spirituality in people's health and in groups with in situation of vulnerability, especially children, teenagers, and women who are victims of violence. I try to be active in an interreligious dialogue because these last few years we have been seeing, regardless of my condition of a religious person, but that as a citizen, I've been putting a great effort to be closer to everything. We have been talking to Father Alberto Jorge along the time. I visit and attend the shrines here in the city, and I try to get close to all of that, to African matrix religions and the originary community, people's communities. They have the opening, the students from indigenous communities in the city of Manaus and in the metropolitan region. I believe that when we have this effort to come together, we recognize ourselves as people and we recognize that we got to put our efforts together to keep walking together to avoid this polarity, this growing polarization that's trying to be installed in the Brazilian territory can be broken, and where the beauty is in recognizing diversity and not to think about something that is absolute and homogeneous and closed, but in a process that we have a process where we respect diversity, where we recognize that the other person is important and can collaborate for that this common earth, this common house that we have can be a place where we can live better since we're all threatened to lose it. The Catholic Church has been working with the importance of the interreligious uh, dialogue. We have been part of the Amazonizar network along to the Catholic University. This week we were praying for the unity of Christian people together as pastors. We were thinking about the importance of concrete articulations because there's a great drought that is threatening Amazonia in this year of 2024, according to the studies that we see, where we, besides thinking and praying, we should start reorganizing ourselves. The Catholic Church has been active to the claims of the peoples of the forest and to the forest overall from documents from 72, which is the Santarém document, where the Amazon people were already alerting us about the great projects that would threaten Amazonia from this decade, above all the 70s. And the bishops there, they had guidelines that ended up as value for the church. We have the Santarém document, we had the celebration of 50 years of the Santarém document, and reaffirmed the importance of reorganizing more and more, articulating with other institutions that have been doing something about the forest and their people. From the document of Pope Francis, that is a reference about environmental, we have some parameters for all the spaces and religious instances around the world. Pope Francis, he called the Sino of Paramazonia specific for the Amazon region. And from that, we had an important document that is also a parameter for our actions articulated with other institutions, which is the Dear Amazon document. that represents the dream of Francis about the integral ecology, where we understand that we as human beings were not more important of the creation. We are part of the creation, and then we have our reference to think about an integral ecology, and it's a main part of our reflections today, not only the reflections, but the actions of the church. Pope Francis has already also presented a document that talks about the climate issue, and the Laudate Deo document talks mainly about the climate change, and we have the several problems related to that and initiatives we may be present, and the importance of the conversation between religions. The community that I represent here summoned people to listen to the populations, and then he presented a specific guideline, creating a commission of integral ecology to face things that challenge the preservation of the earth, our common house, and articulates other actions and other initiatives for the common house. We have also been working a lot about this topic. We have been trying to be a part of forums and attend these forums, be part of committees, and currently we are rearticulating among ourselves with the Jesuits, the Center for Human Rights. We have been working on it, and along with the Catholic universities from Rondônia, Belém, Amazonas, we are resuming the human rights topic above all the environmental rights. We're trying to create a discussion forum among all the human rights centers that are installed in the Amazon. It's an initiative that we believe in, that it's likely to be effective. It's important for all of us. We started now in the morning about the importance of reactivating and resuming a community that was already working with interreligious dialogue among about the several religions that we have here in the state. There's also an ordinance about it, and uh, we need to resume these initiatives with the public ministry, and also there is a political influence here in the state. And last, I see that this is an important event that provoke us to articulate better and recognizes that religious and the experiences that religions provide, the groups, the civil society should be heard, and they have a lot to suggest because no one knows this earth better than we who live here, who are daughters and sons from the earth, who recognize the challenges that we have here, the impacts that are over us, but we also recognize that we can contribute because besides people who are born here, we are also people who have rights, liabilities, and we feel provoked by those who are here because it's a topic that is important for all of us. But at the same time, we feel provoked to suggest alternatives and proposals for that we can have more concrete actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don Hudson. Let's first give the floor to Paio Alberto Jorge, and then we can move on. So let's scooch over so he can reach the mic.
Afongandi, Toche, Noche, Viche, Assis. Saudações tradicionais.
Traditional greetings to my elders, to the ones that are the same age as me, my similars, and the youngest. I am Rebio Sono Oba Meji. I am Father Alberto Jorge Silva.
Roetor Doté, dirigente, chefe.
I am a chief, a master.
Vodun Revioso Toibadé, fundado em 29 de junho de
I am
1980.
a chief of a place founded in 1928, mentioning my elders, my parents. I am the grandchild of Jorge Tarsi from Ileaxé. I am the grandchild of Iroe Nache.
Vivu Vivu Viticli Tataraneto de Noche
I am a great grandson from Mãe Basília Sofia de Toiri-san, founder of Ileaxé,
fundado em 13 de dezembro de 1800.
Founded in December 13 of the 1800s, 864. I am graduated in theology and philosophy, also a degree in psychology, a specialist in clinical psychology, acquiring my PhD in evolutive theory by the Santiago de Compostela University in Spain, and my graduation was from the Lutheran University in Brazil. I have a radio program, was an activist in the means of communication for many years. I'm part of the LGBTQA plus community, married for 15 years. And I am an activist in many fronts. As my former state Congress member said, Deputado Luiz Castro. When coming here, I caught myself thinking for something that inspired me and what I should say today in this important space. We are in the waters of Vodun Badé. This is why I'm wearing red. In our national festivities over here, my color is blue, but I'm wearing red due to my God. I asked for guidance. So many things happening all at once. Our heads are so confused. We are very near a drought. We just saw Rio Grande do Sul state being totally devastated by the floods and now strong winds. We have our National Congress stopped on top of a discussion on legal abortion. So many signals, where the worst of it we can see in Gaza, where thousands of innocent people, thousands of innocent kids are being decimated on a genocide not seen in humanity, where innocent people are being brutally murdered. In the name of what? In the name of peace, in the name of safety, in the name of life. But what life are we talking about? We are surrounded by green, by water. We thought this would be eternal, that there wouldn't be a way to touch this sanctuary, this ecological sanctuary, this nature. But wildfires, provoked wildfires, are here and are showing us that the sanctuary are not are not against fire. And we had a former president saying that because Amazon is a humid forest, the fire wouldn't get us. We are seeing thousands of fish, alligators being dead. And this is not just a climate phenomenon. We are held responsible by the emissions of greenhouse gas effects, emissions of substances that are killing life, a greater life, the life of our planet. Us from the religions that are African descent, we support life in an evolutive chain that was made. God, Jehovah, Allah, Tupan, this great force has created everything in an organized way. The whale devours thousands of sardines, smaller fish, but there's no news of whales causing environmental disasters. Our pirarucu, our tucunaré, our natural fishes also feed on other fishes, but we don't see the disappearance of a single species of fish because they have been devoured by tucunarés or pirarucus. We have plants like orchids that may be called parasites. They live from the life of other plants. And we have yet no news of a devastated forest by those plants. The Creator has created everything to perfection, just like San Francisco de Assis had said. Everything is perfect. Everything is organized. But who is making a mess? Who is making things out of its natural courses? Man. The creation that was gifted intelligence, the creation that was gifted with freedom. And what is stopping us from stopping? What I can see, dear friend Dom Renato from the church, it is that human hypocrisy is still what moves us, still what is moving society. In this exact point, society is divided. Society is divided on the right for a legal abortion after 22 weeks. If women that have been a victim of rape, this is the key point here, were able to have an abortion before 22 weeks, we could say okay,
tem moral para fazer isso.
state congressmen, legislators can do that.
A religião foi utilizada
But just like in
como
Vitória,
forma de embarreirar que uma
this
criança
network
deixasse uma outra.
was used in a way to prevent this child of doing that, in a way of making a child having another child. I heard from a babalao saying something, and he said, "We are defenders of life.
Somos defensores da vida.
We here are defenders of life."
Minutos de Mãe Maria do Jacaúna que não pôde vir, é do nosso próprio
I will use the 10 minutes of
somos defensores da vida.
a friend of mine that couldn't come, Mother Maria.
Ou seja, a interdição, abortar
So they intervened.
ações e situações.
They are against abortion, but there are situations and there are situations.
Nacional está
This National Congress
algo que já foi
should be discussing
decidido pelo próprio Congresso.
something that was already decided by the Congress.
Assistência às crianças
Why are they not discussing assistance of children that are being born on unhappy marriages?
os seus filhos,
Parents that abandon their children,
aumenta
and
o número de crianças.
with that, we have an increase of abandoned children suffering and being marginalized.
Por que que esse Congresso
Why
que
this Congress
diz estar defendendo
that now they may say they are defending life,
essa bancada evangélica
why
fez tão célebre?
this evangelical front is not so strong on fighting pesticides?
Que se quer defender a vida e não se
If you want to defend life,
área.
why aren't you supporting the reforms on land? Why aren't you fighting to fight misery?
Religiosas, estamos fazendo
Us religious, what are we doing at that moment?
posição da CNBB. Defendemos a
Why
quanto tal em todo
are we against CBB? We defend life in all moments.
frente com a sua doutrina.
The church has to be coherent with its doctrine.
A CNBB se manifestar
And I don't see CNBB manifesting against a bishop
a favor
that said he was in favor
de que o aborto
of
aconteça para as pessoas, para as mulheres
abortion
vítimas de violência.
being legal for women that have been raped or victim of a violence. This is time for a deep reflection. For us, leaderships
De levar a nossa voz
that have the capacity of
nos grandes templos
projecting our voice on the big churches, on the big cathedrals, on the small churches and small temples, at the terreiros, shrines, small Umbanda centers, during our rituals. We must unite and put ourselves in a superior manner against all of those fights in a hypocritical society that wants to destruct the encounter of the waters, having a port there. We must place ourselves as the ones that have been sent by God, by the divinities, by sacredcy and heritage. Our ancestors are calling us all the time. We cannot destruct what Pope Francis called our home, our common home. It's terrible. It is alarming.
imensos blocos de gelo do tamanho
Huge ice blocks the size of São Paulo City becoming icebergs.
Pantanal.
It's terrible to see Pantanal burning down.
Isso tudo é fruto da
This is all
concluo aqui
on us.
agradecendo essa grande
I would
oportunidade que nos
now like to conclude thanking for the opportunity that has been given to us
Nesta Amazônia, nós
and
temos
saying that
diálogo interreligioso
here in Amazon we have
de há
this
20 anos,
interfaith dialogue
2 décadas,
that for 20 years
se faz forte.
is present and
Agradecemos a
strong.
Arquidiocese de Manaus,
We would like to thank Manaus Archdiocese, the cathedral,
que 20 anos atrás atenderam esse convite, esse nosso pedido
all of the participants
ir à
that
catedral, ir a São Sebastião,
wanted to help us dialogue.
sendo bispo auxiliar.
All the monks, the friars that 20 years ago have been
Os nossos pastores,
receiving us,
Yuri,
that have been dialoguing, like Yuri, that has gone to our shrine,
igrejas evangélicas,
and us going to the evangelical churches
distribuindo cestas básicas.
and helping us and uniting forces to fight hunger.
Comida para dar para muita gente.
We have food
Abraçamos a iniciativa
to
Amazônia.
provide to ours, and we have to thank the Amazonizar network.
Continuemos nessa jornada. Que nós possamos fortalecer o
We
diálogo,
have to keep on this journey.
o ódio.
We have to fulfill the interfaith forum because hate won't take us anywhere.
Maravilha de depoimento.
This is an amazing speech,
Duríssimas do que a gente
presenting us with many tough realities, but also
maravilhoso em Campo
saying something really amazing because 20 years of interfaith dialogue is amazing.
do senhor Mário Costa.
I want to pass the floor now to Mr. Mario Costa. He's one of the best, he's member of one of the most sacred traditions in the planet, and we're going to close this first part with Professor Francisco Palheta. He's going to talk on the academical side as well.
Bem-aventurado é o lugar, a casa e o coração. E bem-aventurada a cidade, a montanha,
Let's bless the house,
o vale, a terra e o mar,
the city,
o prado e a
the
ilha,
forests,
onde seja feita menção de
the ocean, the sea,
celebrado.
all places where we have the blessings of God.
Bom dia, amigos, senhoras, senhores, saúde,
Blessed may all be.
meus colegas aqui.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to salute you.
Agradeço
All my dear friends present, I want to thank Rodrigo Saletti for the nice invitation,
grande amigo
and I want to like to salute
Luiz Castro.
my great friend Luis Castro,
Trabalhamos muito
a friend that we have worked together
na Amazônia, direitos humanos e a perseguição dos barracos.
for human beings, for Baha'is.
Deputado Luiz Castro, como eu sempre o chamei e o chamo,
Our state representative Luis Castro,
feito por nós.
thank you so much for everything that you have done for us.
Para que tu continues o teu trabalho, onde
The God for health
grande abraço, meu irmão.
and knowledge, may He bless you.
Mário Costa,
A great hug.
61 anos de idade.
My name is Mario Costa. I'm 69 years of age.
Filho de pais iletrados,
I am a son of
vários ativistas da floresta amazônica,
parents that have studied, that have lived in Manaus, and because they were so concerned with the education of their children. The life in the city for them was tough.
grandes privações.
From the beginning, they were deprived of many things, but their sacrifice allowed their 7 children, and only 7 because my mom got surgery due to a disease, because she could have 10, 15.
Ter da maioria
Uh,
a educação superior.
it allowed them to educate their children up to college. I'm representing the Baha'i community of Manaus.
Doutorado em estratégia
I am a
tudo em estratégias
PhD
empresariais,
in a strategy of finance of Dr. Olívio Lisboa, PhD in management and development of Lisbon University, PhD in University of Rio de Janeiro, Master of Getúlio Vargas Foundation, specialization on the Federal University of Paraíba, a specialist in Getúlio Vargas University, and a psychologist by the Federal University of Amazonas.
minhas principais áreas de atuação.
My main areas of actuation,
experiência da gestão de empresas privadas,
experience on
organizações do terceiro setor, competência
private
humano,
management of companies, human resources, especially in the field and developing human resources, knowledge on responsibility,
e
social,
sobre a
and
relação das organizações com os seus stakeholders. Expertise
and
na elaboração de planejamento,
also socialization with stakeholders. I have expertise in capturing resources and organizing
trabalhei 15 anos no
events.
laboratório Sonora,
I worked at Sonora Limitada,
era o do ramo
a
fotográfico,
company that disappeared many years ago.
administração da Ubra,
I was a professor at UBRA in the administration course. Jorge, I know you were not my student. I would have remembered you. I was a professor there for 12 years. I was the secretary in the Amazon.
professor adjunto da FUCAP
I was a professor of FUCAP for 12 years.
durante 30 anos como membro
I was for
legislativo da ADICAM,
30 years a member of the council of DICAN, and now I'm
fiz a minha empresa,
retired. I have my company I have a company of cold sweets. I will talk a little bit of the Baha'i faith. In the entire world, the Baha'i faith is to contribute for a global order for all humanity. They believe the base to create this just and pacific community is it is essential to be humane. This is what we are doing here. The principle of the interdependence of all the members of the human family. This independence favored the creation of many institutions, just like the UN, G20 that we are here representing, providing this forum, many organizations of the organized civil society, or the third sector as we may call in Brazil. The work of the Baha'i community is always among some central themes. Equality of rights of men and women. So the Baha'i faith was born in Iran, in a society that is fanatic, violent. A woman called Tahirih removed their veil. I don't have to tell you what happened to her, but she's one of the big heroes for women. She said, "You can remove my life, but you will not stop women from being emancipated." This is the weight of the Baha'i community. So human rights and human well-being, the development and construction of communities, young people, the protagonists of a change, the role of religion and the situation of Baha'is in Iran. They are prosecuted by the state and by the church in the country. This is a very serious situation. The Baha'i faith has no rights, and thanks to many countries, many nations, many leaders, Iran has alleviated many tensions against Baha'is. Those systems are connected to others. The progress of one will support the progress of another, and we can lead to the objective of the so expected world peace. The kingdom of God in the land, as promised by Christ. The Baha'i they know that the means to be effective, they must be coherent with the objectives that have been traced. We cannot just start with words and continue with words. The world has a lot of resources. And Baha'u'llah says that a man where words exceed actions, their life is not worth, and the non-existence is better than its existence. So words have power, but when you're just saying, there's no effect. Efforts to contribute with social leadership to be worth, they have to use collaborative manners and means to unify. of all people involved. A society where the culture is usually marked by the division, by the dispute, and by social parties, Baha'is are there to stimulate dialogue on the most influential matters, looking for solutions for problems that affect everyone. The experience of the Baha'i faith showed that just the collaboration and mutual learning are capable of generating knowledge, more solidarity, and more comprehension among people involved. And with this spirit, we offer society the rhythms of the Baha'i faith and the Baha'is that work in its respective communities. I will treat about how we see the roles of religion through Baha'i faith. Religion has a central role. Baha'u'llah writes that the religion proposes it's not just the objective for form character to be a transformation manifesting interior and externally, affecting its intimate life and its external condition. From time to time, divine forces, we can say Abraham, Moses, Buddha, Jesus Christ, and Baha'u'llah, share teachings that might awake entire populations and might bring a reflection to its adepts. All civilizations started with a religion. See the Christian faith, 12 disciples, one traitor, all illiterate. Only 0.15% had formal education. Look at now, the entire Western world and a big part of the world is Christian. Look at Arab countries. When that world had a huge war where a woman was worth less than a camel, what Muhammad did changed it. And this is history. This is seen with scientific advances. And civilizations can be a testimony of those religions. With extraordinary quality inspired on its sacred books, the followers advance in many fronts, establishing universal codes, creating institutional fronts to unite societies that might be bigger, more complex, and more collective. When we didn't have science, where did moral came from? Ethics. We learned that from religion. Religion teaches all of that to us. Religion has the potential of serving as a cause of love, unity, and a moving force. Through this acknowledgement, this is capable of guiding human beings for ways to promote social justice. So conflicts are transformed, tensions are relieved in a way that we can have camaraderie. So all inhabitants of the earth have a principle and a principle of God. If we are violent, this is against the laws of God. No religion will promote violence. They promote love. If they're preaching for violence, it's the religious, not the religion. For life in society, religion can be understood as a system of practice for the relationship of God. They can direct decisions, morals, and provide understanding of the deep questions of purpose and human initiative. Historically, always when we are faithful to the Spirit, you can call it whatever you want. The ones that deny the beliefs system, those systems have awakened people for love, for overcoming challenges, for sacrifices for the greater good. And this is what changes us from our impulses of animal instinct. The systems of knowledge will harmonize and complement science and other system that occupies to tries to understand the physical aspects of the humankind and nature. Baha'i faith teaches that science without religion is just materialism, raw materialism. We can see events where some religious leaderships might promote fanaticism, violence, and intolerance, but religion should not be the reasons for that. Understanding this comprehension, Baha'is will engage worldly in dialogues, interfaith, just as this one. Baha'i faith is present at the UN since its foundation, and Baha'is will engage for religious dialogue and understand that the efforts of bringing together many religions is a purpose of the divine will. Understanding that religion has a central role to promote diversity, we understand that Baha'i faith defends the separation of religion and state. If you want more information, you can go for the website of the Baha'i Community of Brazil, and we have two proposals to make. One, governments should seek the support of religious leaders to promote elimination of forms of intolerance that are present in society. Intolerance is one of the biggest problems. Oppression and failure of society to defend human rights will result on the suffering of thousands of people and will prevent humanity from advancing. Intolerance is a terrible evil. Superiority of gender, race, social class, and belief is worse than anything. I've been poor, I've suffered intolerance, I've suffered social intolerance, academic intolerance. I studied in Portugal, so I was from the Latino community, and you know how it is. Intolerance hurts. If you've been there, you know how terrible it is. How can religion, that is the base for the moral formation, can contribute to eliminate all sorts of intolerance in the community? You can see how dear Jorge said, every leader is present in its own community. The change of the world starts with us. Like Gandhi said, you have to be the change you see. It's not just words, you have to put it into practice. And we need to have the support of spiritual leaders as a matter of raising awareness for religious leaders that what they do will influence the environment, will influence rivers, influence rain, influence everything. As Shogefeti said, we cannot separate the human heart of the environment, and everything will be better. The man is an organic part of the world. Its interior life is part of the environment and will be profoundly affected by it. One will act on the other, and all the changes are a result of this relationship. So how can religion contribute on raising awareness for the individual, understanding that their individual actions have an impact on the environment? So finishing with what Baha'u'llah said, Earth is just a country, and humankind, its citizens. Thank you.
Mário, por suas palavras, e você começou a
Thank you
sua
for your words, and you started mentioning one of my favorite prayers. Beautiful, the Baha'i prayer. And yes, let's remember that we have a huge challenge, and this is actually happening in these events that I mentioned in the beginning. The challenge is to formalize, to synthesize proposals that will be based used by the presidents in their decision-making processes in their governments. So our contribution in IF20 is very important. So our process is gonna be after our professor Rodrigo Palheta, we're gonna have a break, but think about everything that is being said and heard here. Which will be the topics that we could forward to these presidents, okay? Be alert to that. And everybody will have a contribution after the break. Thank you, Palheta, for your presence, and please, the floor is yours.
Bom dia a todos.
Good morning, everyone.
Cumprimentar esse
I want to
distinguido
salute
na pessoa da Isabel,
this
que está
body.
aqui do meu lado,
Salute Isabel.
que nos reencontramos depois de muitos anos, né,
We're
Isabel?
meeting
Lá
after
daquele São
several
Gabriel da
years, right,
Cachoeira maravilhoso.
Isabel? In São Gabriel da Cachoeira, we
E
met for the
também
first
quero
time.
cumprimentar esse dispositivo na pessoa do Elianildo,
And I want to
colega
greet
lá
Leonildo, who's
do
here,
Fórum
and
Nacional
is
de Respeito
a
à Diversidade
colleague
Religiosa de
from
Crença.
the Forum International for the Respect
Quero
of
cumprimentar
the
também
Religious
aqui
Liberty. I
Claudi,
want to
Padre
also
Claudi,
greet
colega do
Padre
Fórum
Claudi.
Estadual de Respeito à Liberdade Religiosa de Crença. E nessas três pessoas cumprimentar
And I want
os
to
outros que
greet
compõem esse
also
dispositivo.
everybody who's
Meu
here
lugar de fala
present.
é nasci no interior do
I
Pará, numa
come from
cidade
the
chamada Bujaru,
countryside of Pará, in the city called Bujaru.
filho de família
I'm a
de 19
son
irmãos, entre irmãos biológicos e irmãos adotivos.
where we had
Há
19
42 anos
siblings
trabalho como
among
professor de
biological and
ensino
adopted
religioso
kids. I've been
na
working for
rede
40
estadual
years
de
as a
ensino, na rede
religious
municipal de ensino,
teacher in a
e tive a
municipal and the
oportunidade de
state
trabalhar com esse componente curricular
network,
em
and I had a
várias
chance to
instituições
work with
particulares
this
também.
in several
Há 20 anos tenho
private
trabalhado como
institutions. For 20
cientista da
years, I
religião e
have been
pesquisador
working
da religião.
as a researcher
Recentemente
of
tive a oportunidade de
religion.
fazer mestrado
More
em pesquisa de
recently, I had a
educação com
chance to
pesquisa
have a master's
entre
degree
diversidade religiosa e formação de professores de ensino
in
religioso.
training professors
Concluí meu
for the
doutorado
religious
também
teaching. I
com a
finished my
pesquisa
doctorate
Diversidade
study
Religiosa no
in
Amazonas
research,
e Currículo
the
Religioso Escolar.
religious education.
Já há vários anos estou como militante na
And
luta
for
pelo
several
respeito
years,
à
I've been
liberdade
activist for
religiosa
the
de
fight
crença
to the
prevista pela
respect
Constituição
of
Federal
religious
e
freedom
na
that we
defesa
have
do
in a
Estado
federal
laico.
constitution and in the defense of the secular
Faço
state.
parte do Fórum
I am
Nacional de
part of the
Professores de Ensino
National
Religioso
Forum of
e
Professors
faço
of
parte também
Religious Teaching, and I'm
da
also
RELEI,
part
que é a Rede Nacional de
of
Licenciaturas em
HELE,
Ciência da Religião,
the
e a
network
nível
of
local faço parte
majoring
da
in
ARRELEM, que é a
science,
Associação dos
religious science,
Professores
and I'm
e
also part of the
Cientistas da
association
Religião
of
do Estado do
professors
Amazonas.
and
E
teachers of
aqui talvez
religion in the
fique o meu
state of
local de fala
Amazonas.
na contribuição para este
That's
tão
my
significativo
background for the
evento.
contribution in this
Inicio
very
dizendo que
significant
dentre nós da
event.
ciência da religião já está
I start saying that among
consolidada uma
us from
convicção
the
e um
science of
consenso.
religion, we already have a
Nem
conviction
tudo
and
que
a
é
consensus.
religioso é
Not
bom
everything that is religious is
e nem
good,
tudo que é bom
and not everything that is good
está no que é religioso.
is
As ciências da
religious.
religião
The
têm
science
como um dos
related to
principais
religion, they
objetivos
have as one of the
fazer um
main
esforço muito
objectives
grande,
to have a
metodológico e
huge
científico,
effort, a scientific
de
effort, and an
estudar
effort of
e construir
methodologies to
conhecimento
research,
sobre a diversidade do
study,
fenômeno
and build
religioso,
knowledge about the diversity of the
ao ponto
religious
de
phenomena
sistematizá-lo
to the point to
e
systemize
assim se
this
tornar uma fonte
and
primeira
make it able to
para
become a
uma outra área
first
do
source
conhecimento da
for
educação
second
básica,
area of the
que é
basic,
a área de conhecimento e
which
componente
is the
curricular
area
do
of
ensino religioso.
knowledge and curriculum of religious teaching.
Desafio muito grande para nós,
It's a huge
dada a
challenge for us
diversidade e a
because
ampliação
how diverse
do grande saber religioso, da diversidade desse saber
the
e da
diversity, the
complexidade desse
religious
saber,
diversity is
e
really
tentar trazer
complex. And we're trying to bring all this greatness and this complexity of knowledge to be part of the curriculum in the national base in 2017, 2018, in the state level, in the curriculum of Amazonia, in the state curriculum. And now we're following up several municipalities in the construction of their curriculum. So taking the religious studies open to the religious and faith freedom, and at the same time dialoguing with the structure of a secular state is always a huge challenge and also a huge merit. This religious knowledge that is so diverse is the main source that fits this curriculum in all our schools. So making this religious knowledge, this religious expertise, this religious knowledge hits the basic formation of every citizen is a huge challenge. It's not only responsibility of those who are responsible for teaching religion. Hopefully, all the public policies related to education nationwide, in the ambit of nations and municipalities and states, they could put more effort in giving this knowledge all the worth it's worth it. For this compilation of knowledge, we should have a consensus of how much this knowledge can contribute to mitigate and maybe stop all the climate problems that we've been facing worldwide, nation level, and local level. The dimension of care, the dimension of protection has always been and will always be present in every religious knowledge, either constructed in the state of Amazon or any state of this country or everywhere in the world. There's no doubt for us who are studies of religion that religious knowledge is extremely positive, timely, suitable, and effective. We recognize that there's a lot yet to be done to have new religious knowledge that is able to unite, create consensus, considering all this religious diversity, all this religious wisdom worked by the different religions, the different religious traditions, and the different religious leaders. We also recognize there are ways of building knowledge that is different than the ones that so far has been built, accepted by the academy and the scholars. There is, there are knowledges and wisdom that up to today is not well accepted or are not accepted enough by scholars, by the places where scientific knowledge is produced. Among these knowledges are the religious knowledges. And the scholars, the place where the scientific knowledge is produced, end up losing a lot because they delay, they don't recognize, they don't accept the value of the religious knowledge that is in every religious tradition. It would be needed in talking about the Amazon, the religious diversity and the culture, the diversity of peoples that we have in the Brazilian Amazon. maybe it would be needed to deconstruct some situations that would only be possible to have chemistry done from the chemistry we learned in universities. Our peoples, our sewing, they make chemistry, they produce knowledge, produce medicine, treatment that up to this day are not accepted by the scholars, by the scientific world, or not enough accepted in the scientific world. Our peoples, they also produce knowledge in the field of math. The Western math doesn't know how they can have this knowledge in math, these expertises they have are unknown for them. And our people build knowledge in arts, building, culture that are still far from being accepted and taken into account when people make decisions about the present and the future of the Amazon and the country, the planet as a whole. Identify, typify meetings, places, and sacred places is a challenge for all of us. So, how can we border a space of ceremonies and adoration? How can we limit the house of the ancestrality of so many peoples and so many cultures? If this place is a forest, if this place is the air we breathe, if this place is the heat that heats us, if this place, if this environment is all the water we drink. So respecting places where people adore, how can we limit that if the place of the cult is not a church, is not a mosque, is not a banda or candomblé shrine, there are no relatives, there are no limits. We act as science of religion. On the other hand, of every attempt of new colonialisms, and among them the great challenge of fighting against the religious colonialism. We don't understand what the religious, predatory religious colonialism is still building. Peoples, ethnicities, cultures, human beings are being colonized, diminished in the name of a belief, in the name of a God, in the name of a religious tradition. We react strongly against all demonization generated by minority, for minority religions, the indigenous and Afro-descendants, especially in the Amazon area. We have a strong conviction as religious scientists, that it's possible for every religious tradition to respect, to co-live, and to talk, to create a consensus through dialogue, through the pedagogy, through sitting down in circles and talking, where no one, in the name of no supreme being, consider themselves better, bigger, superior than the other. I finish with two suggestions that we may develop in a special way by the members of the G20: standards of alert to stop levels of persecution and violences against minorities in Latin America, Brazil, and Amazon, especially the actions against indigenous people and Afro-descendants, without allowing that the idea of discrimination is criminalized by authoritarian governments or majority groups to legitimate their private agendas, to have their back for the thirsty for power. It's necessary to have an intersection perspective for the problem of the religious discrimination and the presence of the hatred speech in religion. And today in Brazil, it's considered a crime for practice of religious violence that made the states that are members of the G20 promote spaces of meeting with the civil society to talk about the tools for the civil society for the right of religious freedom. And by the recent report of CDIH, find ways where the religious and spiritual ways that are part of this organization can contribute for the well-being of the planet, the social well-being, the well-being of cultures and ethnies, especially the minority, to protect the common cause against the growing violence in region in terms of belief, religions, sexual orientation, age, and social condition. We are before a very important moment where the decisions we make about the present are already being made hundreds of years late, where the decisions that might be taken next year or another moment about the future of people, about the future of life, about the future of the diversity of life is extremely threatened. And just to provoke you, I will finish with the following question. Let us imagine if every person from the Amazon, if every animal that is in the Amazon, imagine if every tree in the Amazon, imagine if every river, every lake, imagine if the air we breathe, imagine if the soil where we step our foot in would receive the acknowledgement and be treasured compared to gold. It would be a recognition of what's most valuable for all of us in the Amazon and all the humankind. It would be incredibly wonderful. It would be a plot twist and in a way to evaluate and treasure what we are and what we belong to. Living in a world like this, who knows, maybe it would help us a little to have this plot twist so radical that is necessary to mitigate and maybe stop the damages we've been causing to all the species of life on the planet, all the species of minerals, vegetal, and also spiritual. Have a great day, all of you.
Iniciei com vontade de chorar.
Well, I started and I'm also finishing this panel, holding back my tears. So many beautiful things. I'm so grateful to all of you and renewing the hopes that we still got time. We still got time to save our common house, right? We gotta grab our socks, ask for the blessings of God and all the names so that they might guide us in this task. I am positive that if everyone from every religious tradition rised up and said, no, we want a better world. We want the creeks and rivers to be clean. We want the air to be pure. We want the human relations to be recovered. We would for sure make it. I have this hope. There's still time. So let's have our break, and at 11 a.m. sharp, we will resume this beautiful panel. Just a moment.
Primeiramente, nós gostaríamos de
First of all, we would like
a
to thank
e a rede
Uri
Amazonizar
and the Amazonizar Network for this first part
desse workshop
of the
e
workshop,
avisar que nós teremos
and
break aqui
tell
embaixo.
you that we will have a coffee break.
Vocês podem subir pelo elevador, mas também tem uma
You
escada
can
aqui
use the
lateral.
elevator, but there's
Todos
also
estão
stairs
todos e
here on the
todas estão
side.
convidados.
You are
Nós
all
teremos
invited.
tempo de 15 minutos. Tá?
We will have
Para
15
não nos
times.
estendermos muito. Muito obrigado.
Thank you.